why don't we do this? Let me go to our packet. If you go to tab 1, we have the meeting minutes from our February 19th, 2020 meeting. We'll take a moment and review those. There it is. John, your timing is impeccable. We just turned to tab 1.
John, continue.
Take the big seat.
No, that's all.
John, you should have 3 documents. You should have a 2-week look ahead, meeting packet handout, and another document titled Vertex, which is the invoice that came in. Eileen had forwarded, and Steve has already done his diligence. Okay. So we're at tab 1, John, reviewing the minutes from the February 19th, 2020 meeting. How do we not have enough pictures here?
No,
don't disturb the chair.
no, I'm good.
No,
I was just filling in.
Filling in for you.
This, Zell, is 15 seconds of fame are over now.
Yep,
Oh,
okay, guys.
shoot.
I missed it.
So we were actually just on tab 1 reviewing minutes. That's all we
Okay.
were.
Morning.
Any questions or corrections, concerns?
Just one small one, actually. The header still says 1/22/2020 for the February 19th meeting minutes. Next page.
So what was, I'm sorry.
The header.
Better on page 2.
Okay. Oh, I see, okay. I'll just change that, John, when I send it in. Okay, anything else? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes from February 19th, 2020.
Okay, a second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, moving on to tab 2. If you recall, at our last meeting, Steve had presented a list of, they had gone out to get quotes for testing services. And three vendors responded. And Steve, why don't you take over from there? How do you pronounce it?
FINA.
FINA is, they were a low bidder and qualified in your mind?
Yeah, so we went out, as you said, to some material testing companies to give you a sense for the items that they test. If you look on the next page, this is a spreadsheet that we assembled and sent out to each of the bidders and had them fill in, which is their proposed costs for all these different types of tests, whether it's concrete cylinder tests, reinforcing rebar steel inspection, masonry mortar testing, structural steel, bolt torquing, et cetera, et cetera. It's all listed here. So we set up this spreadsheet. We received the quotes all back in with this spreadsheet all filled out, and David assembled this summary that gives you the basics from the attached sheet. The challenging thing is that you don't know exactly what number of tests are going to be conducted, and that's how this item works. If, for example, there's some concern with the ground, you have extra testing done to make sure that all the ground and compaction and all that sort of thing is done properly. And that's an owner obligation, so there is a line item in the budget, a $20,000 line item in the budget to fund this line item. And we performed and have performed the testing as needed, and that's under David's work, and this firm will perform under David's direction as David coordinates with Zell and Zell's design team, and with the schedule on site. So that's what the scope is. And FINA, as you can see, just picking some of the items that are here, was quite competitive on the items as compared to the field. All of these firms are excellent firms, and we would have worked with each and any one of them and have on this project.
So what I'm thinking, team, is that we should make a recommendation to procurement to entertain establishing a purchase order for $20,000 to be drawn down accordingly, just to provide some guidance. And from our overall cost analysis, we had parked testing services in our FF&E account, so it's not in the contract.
Correct.
So I think you're going to meet with Eileen, Steve, after sometime today.
Tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
she and I talked about it yesterday. I suggested she talk to you. So
Yeah, we had some email correspondence late yesterday,
Okay.
and that was the upshot, was to go over not only this, but a couple other questions that she had. So we figured best just to sit down with her for a bit to go through things. So we're set up tomorrow.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
So hence the reason, just to make a recommendation, the procurement will follow whatever their protocols are anyway, and I'm not sure. I would assume they do treat this like any other professional services, which is they establish a not to exceed number, and it gets drawn down based on the rate sheet.
I think it's just more of an allowance,
Yeah.
not to exceed. I mean, nice if it doesn't exceed, but
Yeah.
Stephen said.
Well, I think what it is we have budgeted $20,000, John, so if we hit that point, it's gotta come back to us to make a recommendation, come out of
So an
contingency.
internal change order?
Yeah.
Yes, for the budget, okay.
Okay,
So I guess the question was whether it could be done as a PO or it had to be done as a contract. So,
Whatever you guys prefer.
yeah.
You know, that the testing companies, they don't have a preference as long as they have a PO or something to send their invoices against.
yeah, okay.
So let me revise my motion.
Okay.
I move that we recommend this vendor, and subject to procurement protocols, $20,000 has been allocated in the original estimate of probable cost under the FF&E line item. That just directs Eileen to how we carry that. Now what she does from there, I think is.
So I second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? Martha, what do you think? Is that, I want to get some guidance, but certainly it's not our call how they're going to.
Right, and I think she was just trying to figure it out, but knowing that it's being, $20K that's being carried in FF&E, I think
Okay.
that, certainly helps sort that out, and then when she talks with Steve.
Steve, you're comfortable with this company? They seem to be a lot lower than the others.
They are. I have had them on large projects. They're a very good firm, as are all the others. I was surprised to see the difference. I did bid this at the same time as the neighboring Pentucket project. The numbers they provided numbers identically on all the proposals. I don't know if that helped or didn't help, but that's what.
I would dare say that when you have a $180 million project where there's
Yep.
quite a substantial amount of testing, that your timing was impeccable.
Yep.
I think we're the beneficiary of that.
Probably.
So thank you for that, Steve. All right, no further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. All right, if you turn to tab 3, recall at our last meeting, we introduced potential change orders that were pending, and they were for informational purposes at that point. Now Steve Vertex has reviewed those, and both Zell and Steve have signed off, so we have recommendation for 3 PCOs. PCO 1R. If you recall, there was a change in the elevator code during the bid process that now required the sump of the elevator to be piped into an oil separator. So that was an add to the project. That cost is $39,000, and then when you turn to the subsequent, $3,900, excuse me, subsequent tabs, you'll see the actual backup. So that was anticipated. It's being treated separately because that's an add to the project, where that the elevator cost is a deduct or a credit. So regarding PCO 1R, if you turn to your tab 4, it gives you the background on that. We have a motion and a second, we can then discuss this further.
Make a motion that we accept PCO 1R for the sump pit and the elevator.
I'll second.
Okay. All right, why don't we look at tab 4 and okay, any questions?
And Steve, is the prevailing rate for a journeyman plumber $109 then?
With burden, yes.
With Bert?
Yes.
Okay, no questions? Is any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. All right, PCO 2R3. If you recall, this was on the radio communications tower. That was carried as an owner supply component. TCS was the vendor. They had provided a quote directly to the town. It was the wisdom of the committee and our design team that coordination purposes assign that to the GC, incorporate it. So BC Construction has done that. They've just added their markup in bond, and we carried $50,000 within our FF&E account as an allowance for this, and the total amount is $53,666.82. And if you turn to tab 5, you'll see the PCO there with its backup. So if this is approved, this would be in addition to the contract sum. We would have to then let Eileen know that we have to, I guess internally, we would deduct this amount from our FF&E account and do a transfer. I'm not sure how the town would carry that, but if you could go over that with her, Steve, as well, I think that would be important. Okay. Any questions? Do we have a motion?
Move that we accept PCO 2R3.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on. PCO 6R. If you recall, when we were going through the design bid, or the bid process, the elevator quote came in what we thought was higher, the elevator line item, and the contractors were notified to carry an allowance of $186,000. The net result was the cost of the elevator is 133,000. So if you turn the tab,
Note the typo on my cover sheet with a sticky 3 there. So 1 3 to be crossed out there.
so if you turn to tab 6, this amounts to a credit, contract credit of $54,325. Now, Zell, one question I have looking at the backup, and I know you and I had talked about this. What was the resolution to the contract sum carried this 186, and then the bid added 2.5% for bond and insurance. Then they added their 7.5% markup. So my question is if I take the 186 and I add the 2.5% and I add the 7.5%, am I looking at that correctly?
Well, actually, because this was a file subbid that was rejected, the amount, I don't believe that the GC had added
There, okay,
to that, because the allowance is held as a separate number.
but the total aggregate sum of the contract, he adds his markup and overhead to.
Correct.
So it would still come out at the end,
If you took the 186 out, you gotta take the 2.5% out of this.
and the 7.5% markup.
Then you add back in the new amount with their markup.
Right.
However you
The
want.
thing is, we don't know what markup he had in the job.
Yeah.
We don't
Let's
know.
see, there's no,
It's embedded in his numbers, what markup he carried on his base bid.
Okay,
So that's the tricky part with this. Your point is very good. You don't typically get markup back on credits.
yeah,
This is an allowance plug-in, but I don't know contractually that we have a right to a specific figure for
Yeah.
credit for markup.
have we asked the question,
No, we haven't.
let's ask the question that
Okay.
this was raised at our meeting. We're looking for a 7.5% markup back on the difference.
So I guess if in the contract, because you're right, usually credits are at cost. But if it says there's a markup on credits, then you should owe us a credit, or net credit.
So I think it's just a question, I think we can,
No problem at all.
That's a quick fix.
Yep.
so why don't we table action on this until our next meeting?
Now, is there any impact by not awarding this with Beckwith Elevator to get started with their shop drawings and stuff?
Yeah, we can give them notice to proceed.
I would suggest if you have a not to exceed, in terms of what this, the committee does, and then we can confirm back administratively what the answer is to that allows that to get released without waiting for a meeting.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, I just don't want to lose 2 or 3 weeks getting the elevator rolling. Because they're going to need stuff in the elevator pit when they're doing concrete
Right.
work.
Okay, well, why don't we move to approve this, and if there is an update, you know our questions, we can always move to amend it after the fact, but. So we have a motion to approve PCO 6R.
So we'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, any further discussion? Steve, Zell, you have our question.
yeah.
So, can I ask you,
Yeah.
so the question is, the credit amount of 54,325, if they give us our 7.5%, it would be up to like 58,000 credit, is that what we're
It's
looking at? I
$4,000.
like the way you think.
All right, so, I mean,
That's another day. That's right.
again, this is just my contract. We always add profit and overhead to everything, unless
Just the way it's
someone
done in
says,
the
yeah.
specs.
So the question is, you have $53,000 credit. Are we entitled to an additional 7.5% deduction of the 53, which is an add to it? Okay.
We didn't vote on it.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, we still have to vote on it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, unanimous. So John, just make sure the minutes reflect that we have an open question on that. Okay, tab 7. Steve, why don't you walk us through this? BC Construction had prepared these bullets for last week's meeting, and we're punching dates into it. I don't know if all of that is picked up in our 2-week look ahead. But why don't you give us an update on those items, if you would, Steve or Dave?
Well, the site prep's complete at elevation, basically at elevation 24 feet above sea level. They've hauled in all the material they needed to do it. It's been proof rolled. McPhail had a representative on site last week on Wednesday and Thursday. So they got to observe and monitor the placement of fill for ground improvements and tested the on-site fill for moisture and density and, ultimately compaction. So that's all done. Helical had their operations guy visit us yesterday, and as we talked about before the meeting, Bob, they're prepared to move, or they have a rig there preparing to move from Somerville to the site. It could be as early as Monday.
So let's just go right down the list if we could in order, Dave. So
Yes.
have they done the layout or
Negative.
survey? Okay. So
Negative,
that's pending.
and according to Superintendent Chris Varnell, the surveyor should return today, tomorrow,
Okay.
and Friday.
So it's just pending.
Yeah, it's pending, but they're scheduled. There's no frost in the ground. The conditions have been an ideal for that.
So prep work has been complete.
Yes.
All right, so here we are, Helical's mobilization.
Which they have on their 2-week look ahead as March 11th. It sounds as if that will be on schedule or
Okay.
before that.
So a start of March 11th. And are they 5 business day duration? Is that what they're anticipating?
Yes. The guy yesterday thought they'd actually do it in less time than 5 days. But yes, so they're Helical's budgeting 5 days on site with the rig.
Okay. Well, that'd be probably demobbing the last day to get out of there. Okay.
What's the required curing time for the geopiers? You know?
Depends.
Depends. We had a lot of talk about that last week. It's supposed to be based on a 28-day cure. They want to test cylinders as soon as 7 days.
4 days.
Or 4.
Yeah, we had,
First one for.
4, 7, 14.
And 14.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that they anticipate that even by 14, they'll be able to move. So it's more, it's an accelerated game that they play because they know that from past experience that they can do that.
They reach
They take a risk,
test at 4 days,
basically.
they know they're gonna hit it.
Yeah,
Well,
basically.
they use
Yeah.
high-strength concrete,
Yeah.
lots of cement to it, so they get the strength that they need very, very quickly,
Yeah.
and that allows them to continue on with the process.
And they do this day in and day out, so
Yeah,
they're
they,
familiar with the process and how everything's gonna behave.
I actually had a chance to sit in on last Wednesday's meeting, and the helical rep was saying that after 4 days, these could be breaking at 3,800 or 4,200 PSI, which you're down.
Yeah, we're not loading them anyways.
Yeah, so. Okay.
Cool.
And we'll have a testing contractor in place.
And the geotech will observe, they'd like to have
McPhail.
someone observe
Yeah.
the install. that's
They
Should-
said-
part of their,
Should they be generating a schedule? How do we let McPhail know?
we'll let
You'll-
them.
So you'll know
They
that?
are, they,
All right, so
I
you're
talked to
all,
them yesterday, they wanna know, ahead of time,
okay.
so they can schedule someone to be here.
That's
The
easy.
the
That's easy.
days they're actually
Yeah.
working.
Okay. All right, foundation work, start date. So we're looking at the,
They plugged the mobilization date for North Atlantic Concrete, the form contract, in, as Wednesday, the 18th
of March.
yes, 18th of March. As far, the rebar's all been cut and bent a long time ago, that's part.
So we add
Wait,
7
we
days
deliver.
to the, so they're basically demobilized, they can actually probably start doing footings the last week of March, given the 7 or 10 day cure.
Realistically, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think
I
we can
mean,
make a
that-
realistic conjecture that they could, right, we could be forming and
Footings, yeah.
4 footings the last.
What do they have for duration on that?
They have basically close to a month for the
For-
the foundation schedule details 8 pours. It's 8 line items, I don't know whether North Atlantic does that or not.
Right.
They have 8 pours scheduled, or 8 line items. They've broken that foundation, the haunches, and the footings into 8 sections for scheduling purposes. And they have blocked out close to a month to do that. Pelchat, I think, needs, which, I don't know. Pelchat will need about a week. The Pelchat team thinks they will need about a week to do their prep work.
Before or after?
Before.
Okay.
So once helical is done and demobilized, and basically in conjunction with that, because I think they're gonna work side by side.
Yeah.
Pelchat needs 5 working days, plus or minus, to scratch where they have to scratch, to excavate where they have to excavate, which is minimal, for footings and piers and things. And then get the 6 inches across.
Because at elevation 24, they're almost at,
They're all about, I think they have to go down like 1.5 feet,
okay.
basically, to get to bottom of footing.
All right, what do we have for any design submittal possible conflicts with underground, mechanical, or tower pad? I think those were all resolved at the meeting. wasn't it?
Well, yeah, there is a shop drawing of below slab coordination, which still has to be approved because it didn't include the revision to the duct bank, the electrical duct bank, which is minor really issue, but, and also there was a request now for taking the drain pipe through the foundation foundation wall. And according to our civil and plumbing engineers, the elevation of that pipe is exactly in the middle between footing and wall. So it's split, it's not over the footing. When they actually calculated the elevation where it should be. So I don't know if that's gonna create any difficulty. I don't think so, but, because they'll just have to, they'll actually put a sleeve or something and pour over. I don't think it's a problem.
So this is for the drain itself?
This is for the wasteland,
Waste pipe,
yeah.
Okay.
The wasteland.
Actually, if it's up higher, you get more pitch, which,
Yeah,
We
I
get ground
don't know, this is,
yeah.
it just came back yesterday. I
Yeah,
didn't
you guys are
resolve
resolved
it.
this now.
Yeah,
It'll get
and
resolved.
BC Construction is, I mean, they're studying the plans, they're making an effort as well to
Okay.
coordinate, to anticipate conflicts, I can tell you.
The tower pad is incorporated in the footing plan. so
Yes,
That's a non-issue.
I don't think there's gonna be anything significant, it still hasn't been completely signed off.
Okay. Ground improvement parking lot, is there any update on the geosynthetics versus the?
Well,
You're still waiting for a submittal from BC on that?
Well, as you know, McPhail did issue a letter, a memo, which I'm assuming you saw, regarding the,
On the foundation and hardscapes?
no,
I
on
saw that.
the, any future site improvement in the back of the site.
Okay, on the design build.
Yeah, it deals with their analysis of potential settlement that will occur over time. So anything that, because this process is now out of the critical path, and because there's time for that to be resolved, what I think they're looking at is anything that's proposed could be analyzed over a length of time before the actual parking lot has to be paved.
Right.
So the stuff can sit there for 6 months, and they're looking at, well, what's the potential of the actual
Compaction.
compaction, and how much we're gonna get, how far.
I haven't seen that letter.
That memo went out, and I did send it to everyone.
Did it,
Who we sent?
did it go yesterday, or?
No, this is.
Oh, okay.
Last week.
All right,
So you're
I'll-
looking to get a surcharge impact?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that they can, the idea is when there's a calculation can be made to have a good idea of what the potential is for, how much differential settlement you're gonna get. And the idea being, within the, let's say, 6 months of time that the material will sit there, it can stabilize. And so by the end of the process, you maybe by adding some fill at that time and then paving at the right elevation, you may limit any future,
Right.
how much settlement there might be in the future.
So rainy season would
There's
help.
no
So-
guarantees, but it's just an analysis that they can make, and so they sort of put that out as something to be considered by any potential design that's proposed, so that it's understood what kind of an analysis we need to make, so that everybody has a better handle on how much settlement might be. And that can be calculated by all of the amount of materials being placed and the kind of solution, the fabric, whatever is proposed, how that behaves, and that's the idea. They wanna have some way of getting their heads around reviewing whatever proposal comes in. And apparently according to BC, they have now hired an engineering company, to actually provide a design for this system. However, that cannot take place until, I think, starting next week, because I guess the person doing it, which, he's an engineer actually that I happen to know from years ago. He's on vacation, but he'll get on it as soon as he returns next week, and assemble some sort of proposal.
Now, will the BC be responsible for putting in monitoring stations?
Yes,
Okay, great.
yes, they would do that.
Good.
Because that's the only way to track it. And
But they'll be responsible for that.
Yes.
That engineer will be.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is that maybe whatever system is proposed, there's adequate time to perform, preloading is what it is,
Right.
winds up being, in this case. And hopefully most of the settlement will be done by the time we have to pay. That's the,
Yeah, no, I think that's a good process to look at.
so.
All right, why don't we look at the 2-week look-ahead schedule? I think we probably have covered most of
Yeah.
that, but Stephen, Zell, or David, you want to chime in and plug in a missing data that we should be looking at?
Dave knows best about what's on site with I don't
Yeah,
see-
and we pretty much run through,
Yeah.
we've run through it. So March 5th, so they're telling us the surveying crew, which had explained to me when they were here earlier that they needed 2 days to do the layout, are gonna show up on Thursday, so tomorrow's the 5th. So that would give them Thursday and Friday. And then even into Monday with, if Helical does mobilize on Monday. Yeah, the rebar we mentioned, that's ready to be delivered. Pelchat is off-site until Helical returns. And, you know, they did confirm with us, Friday and Monday morning, that they would be basically there working in tandem with Helical doing whatever needed to be done. And then, yes, good news that they've plugged North Atlantic Concrete for showing up on site into Wednesday, March 18th. That would be great if that happened.
Okay. All right, well, moving on, the last item before we consider wrapping up. You have a communication, cover letter is Vertex. It's Steve's recommendation payment for the current context invoice. That, it's not in your packet, David.
Oh, it's-
I actually handed it out. It came in after we had
Oh,
a
wait, there's-
final stage
three copies
assembly
for
of,
some reason.
all right, well, there you go.
Jill has
I
lots
don't
of
really
copies
need them.
just to make
I
sure.
don't need
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
processed.
well, you know, he brought 6 extra copies just in case.
Yeah. So just as a note of explanation, if you see, this invoice is actually for 2 months of CA. Normally it would be each month, but for some reason, the way things went, it just didn't get out in January, so.
All right, well, it's been recommended by Vertex. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the invoice for context for January and December.
Oh, it's actually
January,
February.
Okay, in the amount of 31,000. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion or questions? All right, do we have a motion? I mean, excuse me.
Oh.
I haven't had enough coffee yet today. All those in favor?
Everybody say yes.
Okay, unanimous.
Now,
All right, John, you had another one, this is the,
this is Vertex
Vertex's
invoice, they can't
invoice.
approve it, which makes sense.
Right.
Wonder how long that was gonna take.
okay, we actually had this, we looked at this at our last meeting. It's for $16,093.79.
It covers Steve's time, David's time, and a little bit of time with PE, which is John. That's for the month of
Okay,
March, January, actually.
do we have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the Vertex invoice for $16,000 some odd dollars.
Okay, second?
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
There's 2 of each, they bought for you.
John, you know what, can you,
Yes.
for this one, while we're all here,
Can I, well, I got that one right there. It's,
are this for Vertex too?
yeah, Vertex, both are in there. There's 4.
Oh, okay,
Two, yeah.
great, excuse
Yeah,
me.
I had both. Yeah, Steve sent me a copy. of me.
All right, great. So then this is ready for.
So I can drop those
review.
out to,
Here, I can
you can just.
do that too.
to Nora. Good.
All right, that's good.
So what, the next meeting, we'll see BC's next requisition, is that how it'll work, first of the month?
I would expect so.
Oh, the middle of the month, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would expect they would have it for this meeting, but we haven't
Yep.
seen that, so.
Yeah.
we'll-
So that, we would anticipate it to be ready for the, our meeting on the 18th. Okay. Sal, anything you want to add to the meeting before we move to adjourn?
Not really, just. we're
Weather's
trying-
cooperating, that's for sure.
We're just trying to get things going here, keep it moving.
Martha, how about yourself?
Thanks.
John?
I don't know.
John?
I want to compliment your team on the efficiency of your submittals and RFIs. You're a pain in the ass. Flying through my computer as a.
Tell me about it.
This is fabulous. I mean, it's like, where's Eric?
Yeah,
And they've done an excellent job of, you know, being on top of moving them, you know, answering them and so forth. And BC has, I think, done a good job of getting back to them to do so. I think that's a huge plus for any job. So,
Steve.
We try, thank you.
I'm all set, thank you.
Dave?
So,
Yeah. I echo John's comment. The design team has done an outstanding job, you know, staying on top of this and keeping the paperwork moving. And I want to give some credit to our build team, BC Construction. They've been cooperative up to this point on these PCOs, and you know, which is greatly appreciated. We'll get through the design build part of this on the remaining soil improvements. And I think we all know once concrete starts to come out of the ground, that's the milestone we all wait for.
no, the first 2x4 vertical,
Yeah.
out of the ground.
All right, if there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion that we adjourn this meeting?
Second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, everyone.